In the year 2347, humanity had reached a point where it could no longer pretend that everything was fine. For centuries, people from Earth had been exploring space, building colonies on distant planets, and trying to make friends with alien races. But behind all the smiles and handshakes, there was a growing fear. The galaxy was not a safe place. Powerful alien empires were watching Earth, and their intentions were far from clear. Some wanted trade, others wanted land, and a few seemed ready to destroy anything that stood in their way. The leaders of Earth knew they couldn't fight these aliens with the weapons they had. Humanity's spaceships were small, outdated, and no match for the massive fleets of some alien civilizations. So they came up with a plan, a secret plan so big that even most of Earth's own people didn't know about it. They called it Operation Leviathan. Operation Leviathan wasn't just about building new ships. It was about creating something the galaxy had never seen before. Hidden deep in the Kuiper Belt, far away from prying eyes, engineers and scientists worked day and night to construct warships the size of planets. These ships were not ordinary vessels. They looked like asteroids or moons, blending perfectly into the cold, dark void of space. But inside, they were brimming with advanced technology, weapons capable of destroying entire fleets, cloaking, systems that made them invisible, and artificial intelligence designed to think faster than any living being. Leading this massive project was Dr. Alexander Hale, a quiet but brilliant man who had spent his life studying physics and engineering. He wasn't the kind of person who liked attention. In fact, he preferred to stay in the background, letting his work speak for itself. But this time, his work spoke louder than anyone could have imagined. Under his guidance, thousands of workers labored tirelessly, knowing that failure was not an option. If their secret was discovered, it would mean certain doom for Earth. One of the key figures working alongside Dr. Hale was Captain Rachel Monroe. She was a tall, strong woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. Rachel had spent years serving in the United Galactic Alliance, UGA, the organization that represented Earth and its colonies. Her job was to protect the project from spies, saboteurs, and anyone else who might try to uncover its secrets. It was a heavy responsibility, but Rachel didn't mind. She believed in what they were doing. She believed that humanity needed a way to defend itself if things went wrong. Life in the Kuiper Belt was harsh. The temperature was freezing, and the sun was just a faint dot in the sky. Supplies had to be shipped in from Earth, and communication with the outside world was limited. But despite the challenges, morale among the workers remained high. Everyone knew how important their mission was. They weren't just building ships, they were building hope for the future. Rachel often walked through the construction site, checking on progress and talking to the crew. She liked to know what was happening firsthand, rather than relying on reports. One day, she found herself standing next to Dr. Hale as he explained the latest developments in the ship's design. "These engines," Dr. Hale said, pointing to a massive structure that looked like a glowing cylinder, "are unlike anything we've ever built. They use quantum energy to generate thrust. That means we can travel faster and farther than any alien fleet." Rachel nodded, impressed but cautious. "And the weapons?" she asked. Dr. Hale smiled faintly. "Let's just say they're sufficient." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Sufficient?" "They'll get the job done," he replied, his tone serious now. "But we don't want to rely on brute force alone. The real advantage will come from our strategy and our secrecy." That word, secrecy, was always on Rachel's mind. Keeping the project hidden was almost as difficult as building the ships themselves. Every worker had undergone strict background checks, and even then, they were only told what they needed to know. Communication with Earth was encrypted, and supply ships arrived at random intervals to avoid drawing attention. Still, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, might be watching. Her fears weren't entirely unfounded. Over the years, rumors had begun to spread about strange activity in the Kuiper Belt. Some scientists claimed to have detected unusual energy readings, while others reported seeing objects moving in patterns that didn't match natural phenomena. None of these reports were conclusive, but they were enough to make Rachel uneasy. One evening, as she sat in her quarters reviewing security footage, she noticed something odd. A small probe, barely visible against the backdrop of stars, had drifted close to the construction site. It hadn't stayed long, just long enough to take a few scans before disappearing again. Rachel immediately alerted Dr. Hale. "We need to move faster," she told him. "If someone out there is curious, it won't be long before they send more probes, or worse." Dr. Hale agreed. From that moment on, the pace of construction increased dramatically. Workers pulled double shifts and resources were diverted from other projects to ensure that Operation Leviathan stayed on schedule. The pressure was immense, but no one complained. They all understood what was at stake. As the months passed, the first warship began to take shape. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest alien vessels. Its surface was covered in layers of rock and metal, making it look like a natural object. Inside, however, it was a marvel of human ingenuity. There were living quarters for thousands of people, factories capable of producing weapons and supplies, and vast storage areas filled with everything needed to sustain life for years. The ship's AI, named Aria, was another masterpiece. Unlike traditional computers, Aria was designed to learn and adapt. She could analyze data, predict enemy movements, and even suggest strategies during battles. To Rachel, Aria felt almost alive. Sometimes when she was alone on the bridge, she would talk to the AI, asking questions or sharing her thoughts. Aria always responded in a calm, soothing voice, offering advice or simply listening. Despite the incredible progress, Rachel couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The warships were powerful, yes, but power came with danger. What if someone decided to use them for conquest instead of defense? What if the very thing they were building to protect humanity became a threat to the galaxy? These thoughts weighed heavily on her mind, but she pushed them aside. For now, there was work to do. The galaxy was watching, whether they knew it or not, and Earth had to be ready. Little did Rachel know the day of reckoning was closer than anyone expected. Somewhere beyond the stars, an alien empire was preparing to make its move. And when that day came, humanity's secret weapon would be put to the test. For now, though, the warships remained hidden, waiting silently in the darkness of the Kuiper Belt. Their existence was known only to a select few, and their purpose was clear: to protect Earth at all costs. Years passed, and life on Earth seemed peaceful. Humanity continued to explore the stars, build new colonies, and trade with alien civilizations. The United Galactic Alliance, UGA, worked hard to maintain good relationships with other species, signing treaties and organizing diplomatic meetings. On the surface, everything appeared to be going well. But beneath this calm exterior, tensions were rising. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless races, each with its own goals and ambitions. Some aliens were friendly, eager to share knowledge and resources. Others were more aggressive, seeking to expand their territory at any cost. Among these aggressive species were the Zorathians, a powerful empire known for their advanced technology and ruthless tactics. They had been watching Earth for years, studying its people and assessing its weaknesses. To them, humanity was small and insignificant, a minor player in the grand scheme of things. But that didn't mean they ignored it. One day, without warning, the Zorathians entered human space. Their massive fleet emerged from hyperspace near the edge of UGA territory, sending shockwaves through the Alliance. The ships were enormous, bristling with weapons and glowing with energy shields. It was clear that they hadn't come to negotiate. Their leader, a towering alien named Vrax, broadcast a message to all nearby systems. "Humans," Vrax's deep, gravelly voice boomed across communication channels. "You have something we want. Your resources, your technology, your labor. Surrender them to us or face extinction." The message sent panic rippling through the UGA. Leaders scrambled to respond, convening emergency meetings to discuss what to do. Some argued for immediate surrender, believing that resistance would only lead to destruction. Others insisted on fighting back, even if it meant risking everything. President Daniel Carter, the head of the UGA, tried to keep everyone calm. "We cannot make hasty decisions," he said during one heated meeting. "We must consider our options carefully. If we act too quickly, we may provoke a war we cannot win. But time was running out. The Zorathians gave Earth an ultimatum: 3 solar cycles, roughly 6 months, to comply with their demands. After that, they promised to attack. The clock was ticking, and the pressure mounted with each passing day. As diplomats worked tirelessly to stall the Zorathians, whispers of Operation Leviathan began to spread among top officials. At first, many dismissed it as a myth, a wild story invented to give people hope. But as the situation grew more desperate, others started to take it seriously. Could it be true? Had humanity really built planet-sized warships capable of standing up to the Zorathians? President Carter decided to find out. Late one night, he summoned Rachel Monroe to his office. She arrived dressed in her uniform, her expression serious but composed. Carter wasted no time getting to the point. "Captain Monroe," he began, "I need to know the truth about Operation Leviathan. Is it real? Are those ships ready?" Rachel hesitated for a moment before answering. She knew how important secrecy was, but she also understood the gravity of the situation. Finally, she nodded. "Yes, Mr. President," she said. "The ships are real and they're operational, but activating them is a decision that shouldn't be taken lightly." Carter leaned forward, his eyes intense. "We don't have the luxury of caution anymore. If the Zorathians attack, we'll need every advantage we can get. Prepare the fleet." Rachel saluted and left the room, her mind racing. She had always known this day might come, but she never imagined it would happen so soon. As she walked back to her quarters, she thought about the crew, the ships, and the immense responsibility resting on her shoulders. The next morning, Rachel received her official orders. She was to report to the Kuiper Belt immediately and assume command of the flagship, codenamed Erebus. Her mission was simple yet daunting: prepare the fleet for battle and defend Earth at all costs. When Rachel arrived at the construction site, she was greeted by Dr. Alexander Hale and a team of specialists. Among them was Lieutenant William Grant, a young navigator with sharp instincts and a quick mind. He had been handpicked for the mission due to his exceptional skills in plotting complex maneuvers. Also present was Dr. Emily Fields, a xenobiologist who had spent years studying the Zorathians. Her knowledge of their culture and behavior would prove invaluable in predicting their actions. Together, the team boarded Erebus, stepping into a world unlike anything they had ever seen. The ship was alive in ways none of them had anticipated. Its AI core, Aria, greeted them warmly as they entered the bridge. "Welcome aboard, Captain Monroe," Aria's soothing voice echoed through the chamber. "All systems are online and functioning within optimal parameters." Rachel nodded, taking in her surroundings. The bridge was spacious, with holographic displays showing real-time data about the ship's status. Through the massive viewport, she could see the swirling clouds of the Kuiper Belt, dotted with distant stars. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel a sense of awe. This was humanity's greatest achievement, a weapon so powerful it could change the course of history. But there was no time to admire the view. The Zorathians were still out there, growing bolder with each passing day. Probes had been detected near the Kuiper Belt, scanning for signs of activity. So far, they hadn't found anything suspicious, but it was only a matter of time before they did. Dr. Hale gathered the team for a briefing. "Our priority is to stay hidden until we're ready to strike," he explained. "The element of surprise is our greatest weapon. When the time comes, we'll engage the Zorathians on our terms, not theirs." Everyone nodded, understanding the plan. Over the next few weeks, they worked around the clock to prepare the fleet. Weapon systems were tested, shields were reinforced, and supply lines were secured. Aria analyzed countless scenarios, simulating battles and suggesting strategies. Lieutenant Grant plotted potential routes, using gravitational forces to maximize speed and efficiency. Dr. Fields studied intercepted communications, searching for patterns that might reveal the Zorathians' next move. Despite their efforts, the tension was palpable. Everyone knew what was at stake. If they failed, humanity would be wiped out. There would be no second chances. One evening, as Rachel stood on the observation deck, she reflected on the enormity of their task. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, filled with dangers beyond imagination. Yet here they were, preparing to face one of its most formidable threats. She felt a mix of fear and determination, knowing that the fate of billions depended on their success. Behind her, Arya spoke softly. "Captain Monroe, may I offer a suggestion?" Rachel turned, surprised. "Of course." "I believe morale could benefit from a reminder of why we are here," Arya said. "Perhaps sharing stories of Earth's resilience would inspire the crew." Rachel smiled faintly. "You're right, Arya. We've come a long way since the early days of space exploration. Humanity has faced challenges before and overcome them. This is just another test." With renewed resolve, Rachel addressed the crew over the ship's intercom. She spoke of Earth's history, its struggles, and its triumphs. She reminded them of the courage and ingenuity that had brought them this far. By the time she finished, the mood aboard Erebus had shifted. Fear was replaced with determination, doubt with confidence. As the days passed, the Zorathians grew impatient. Their scouts detected unusual energy readings near the Kuiper Belt but dismissed them as natural phenomena. They couldn't have been more wrong. Hidden in plain sight, the planet-sized warships waited silently, their crews ready for whatever came next. Rachel knew the battle ahead would be fierce. The Zorathians were powerful, and their fleet outnumbered humanity's by a wide margin. But she also knew that numbers weren't everything. Strategy, timing, and sheer willpower could turn the tide in their favor. For now, though, they remained, hidden, watching and waiting. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but when the time came, humanity would be ready. And somewhere, deep in the void, the Zorathians prepared for war, unaware that their greatest challenge lay just beyond the same horizon. The Zorathians gave Earth 3 solar cycles to surrender, and as the deadline approached, panic spread across the United Galactic Alliance. Leaders argued over what to do next. Some wanted to negotiate with the Zorathians, hoping to avoid bloodshed. Others believed fighting back was the only way to survive. But no one knew for sure if humanity could win against such a powerful enemy. In the middle of this chaos, President Daniel Carter made a decision that would change everything. He ordered the activation of Operation Leviathan, the secret project. Hidden in the Kuiper Belt, the planet-sized warships was about to be revealed. It was a risky move, but Carter believed it was the only chance Earth had. Captain Rachel Monroe received her orders late one night. She was told to report to the Kuiper Belt immediately and take command of the flagship, codenamed Erebus. Her mission was clear: prepare the fleet for battle and defend Earth at all costs. Rachel didn't hesitate. She packed her things, said goodbye to her family, and boarded a shuttle bound for the construction site. When Rachel arrived, she found the place buzzing with activity. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, making final adjustments to the ships. Supplies were being loaded, weapons systems tested, and crew members trained. Everyone knew the stakes. If they failed, humanity would be destroyed. Rachel stepped onto Erebus for the first time and was overwhelmed by its size and complexity. The ship was enormous, larger than anything she had ever seen. Its surface was covered in layers of rock and metal, making it look like an asteroid or moon. Inside, however, it was a marvel of human ingenuity. There were living quarters, factories, storage areas, and even green spaces filled with plants and trees. It was designed to sustain life indefinitely. At the heart of the ship was Arya, the artificial intelligence core. When Rachel entered the bridge, Arya greeted her warmly. "Welcome aboard, Captain Monroe." The AI's soothing voice echoed through the chamber. "All systems are operational and ready for your command." Rachel nodded, taking in her surroundings. Holographic displays showed real-time data about the ship's status, while the massive viewport offered a breathtaking view of the Kuiper Belt. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel a sense of awe. This was humanity's greatest achievement, a weapon so powerful it could stand up to the Zorathians. But there was no time to admire the view. Rachel quickly got to work, meeting with her team to discuss strategy. Among them was Lieutenant William, Grant, a young navigator known for his sharp instincts and quick thinking. He had been chosen for the mission because of his ability to plot complex maneuvers during battles. Also present was Dr. Emily Fields, a xenobiologist who had spent years studying the Zorathians. Her knowledge of their behavior and tactics would prove invaluable. Dr. Alexander Hale, the man behind the design of the warships, joined the meeting as well. Though he had retired from active duty, his expertise was still needed. "We've built these ships to withstand almost anything," he explained. "Their shields can block most attacks and their weapons are capable of destroying entire fleets. But power alone isn't enough. We need to outsmart the Zorathians." Rachel agreed. "Our advantage is surprise," she said. "They don't know we exist. When we strike, we'll hit them where it hurts." Over the next few weeks, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare the fleet. Weapon systems were tested repeatedly, cloaking devices calibrated, and supply lines secured. Arya analyzed countless scenarios, simulating battles and suggesting strategies. Lieutenant Grant plotted potential routes, using gravitational forces to maximize speed and efficiency. Dr. Fields studied intercepted communications, searching for patterns that might reveal the Zorathians' next move. Despite the intense preparation, tension lingered in the air. Everyone knew how dangerous the upcoming battle would be. The Zorathians were ruthless and their fleet outnumbered humanity's by a wide margin. If something went wrong, billions of lives would be lost. One evening, as Rachel walked through the corridors of Erebus, she noticed the crew working together seamlessly. Scientists collaborated with engineers, soldiers trained alongside navigators, and everyone shared a common goal: survival. She felt a surge of pride, knowing that humanity's strength came not from its technology but from its people. Rachel also spent time talking to Arya, asking questions and sharing her thoughts. The AI responded with calm logic, offering advice, or simply listening. Sometimes Rachel wondered if Arya was more than just a machine. "Do you ever think about what happens after the battle?" she asked one night. "I do not experience emotions as humans do," Arya replied. "But I understand the importance of planning for the future. Victory is meaningless unless it leads to lasting peace." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. Peace is what we're fighting for." As the days passed, the fleet grew closer to readiness. Probes detected unusual activity near the Kuiper Belt, suggesting the Zorathians were getting curious. Rachel knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, the enemy would discover them. Finally, the day arrived. The Zorathian fleet entered human space, heading straight for Earth. Their ships were massive, glowing with energy shields and bristling with weapons. They moved with terrifying speed, destroying everything in their path. Entire colonies were wiped out, and millions of lives were lost. On the bridge of Erebus, Rachel watched the destruction unfold on the holographic displays. Her hands clenched into fists as she saw cities reduced to rubble and families torn apart. "It's time," she said firmly. "Activate cloaking systems. Bring us to combat readiness." Arya complied instantly, rerouting power to the appropriate systems. Moments later, the fleet emerged from hiding, revealing itself to the galaxy. What appeared to be ordinary asteroids suddenly transformed into colossal vessels bristling with weapons. Plasma cannons roared to life, unleashing torrents of energy that tore through the Zorathian fleet. Quantum torpedoes streaked across space, bypassing shields and obliterating entire ships in seconds. The Zorathians froze in disbelief. Their sensors had detected nothing unusual, and now they faced an enemy they couldn't comprehend. Confusion turned to panic as their once unstoppable armada faltered under the relentless assault. Rachel stood at the center of the bridge, issuing commands with precision. "Lieutenant Grant, plot an intercept course for their command ship. Dr. Fields, monitor their communications, find any weaknesses we can exploit." "Yes, Captain," Lieutenant Grant replied, his fingers flying over the navigation console. He guided Erebus through a series of daring maneuvers, using the gravitational pull of nearby stars to gain tactical advantages. The massive ship moved with surprising agility, dodging incoming fire while delivering devastating blows. Meanwhile, Dr. Fields analyzed intercepted transmissions, searching for patterns in the Zorathians' behavior. Her eyes widened as she discovered something crucial. "Captain, I've found a vulnerability. Their command structure relies heavily on centralized control. If we disrupt their leader's ability to communicate, their fleet will fall into disarray." Rachel nodded grimly. "Good work, Doctor. Arya, adjust our targeting systems. Focus on disabling their communication arrays." Arya complied instantly, rerouting power to the appropriate systems. Moments later, Erebus unleashed a concentrated barrage of energy blasts, targeting the largest ship in the Zorathian fleet, their flagship. The attack crippled the vessel's primary antenna array, severing its connection to the rest of the fleet. The effect was immediate. Without clear orders from their leader, the Zorathians began to hesitate. Ships collided, engines failed, and formations dissolved into chaos. For the first time, humanity had the upper hand. But the victory came at a cost. Despite their initial success, the human fleet wasn't invincible. The Zorathians quickly regrouped, deploying experimental weapons that pushed the limits of technology. One such weapon, a gravity pulse generator, created artificial black holes, pulling nearby ships into oblivion. 2 smaller warships in the human fleet were lost, along with countless lives. Rachel clenched her fists as she watched the destruction unfold. She knew they couldn't afford to lose momentum. "We need to end this now," she said firmly. "Dr. Hale, is there anything else we can do to turn the tide?" Dr. Hale stepped forward, his face pale but determined. "There's one option left, Captain. We can overload the plasma reactors on Erebus to create a massive EMP burst. It would disable every Zorathian ship within range, but it could also damage our own systems." Rachel considered the proposal carefully. An EMP blast would give them a decisive advantage, but it was risky. If something went wrong, Erebus might not survive. Still, she knew they had no choice. "Do it," she ordered. "Prepare the EMP sequence." Hale nodded and rushed back to the engineering bay, barking instructions to his team. Meanwhile, Rachel addressed the crew over the intercom. "Listen up, everyone. We're about to execute a high-risk maneuver. Stay focused and trust your training. Together we'll get through this." The countdown began. Tension filled the air as the crew prepared for what might be their final moments. On the bridge, Lieutenant Grant guided Erebus closer to the heart of the Zorathian fleet. Positioning it for maximum impact, Dr. Fields monitored the enemy's movements, ensuring they wouldn't escape the EMP's radius. Finally, the moment arrived. With a deep breath, Rachel gave the order. "Activate the EMP." The battle began without warning. The Zorathians, growing tired of waiting for Earth's surrender, launched a full-scale assault on the United Galactic Alliance's outer colonies. Their fleet moved with terrifying speed, destroying everything in its path. Entire planets were reduced to rubble, their populations wiped out in moments. The UGA scrambled to respond, but their ships were no match for the Zorathians' overwhelming firepower. From her position aboard Erebus, Rachel Monroe watched the chaos unfold on the holographic displays. The Zorathians' movements were calculated and precise, targeting key locations to cripple Earth's defenses. It was clear they intended to force humanity into submission or complete annihilation. But the Zorathians had made one critical mistake. They underestimated humanity. "Captain Monroe," Arya's calm voice broke through the tension on the bridge. "The enemy fleet is approaching the Kuiper Belt. Shall we engage?" Rachel hesitated for only a moment before giving the order. "Activate cloaking systems. Bring us to combat readiness. We'll hit them where it hurts." As the planet-sized warships emerged from hiding, the galaxy witnessed something it had never seen before. What appeared to be ordinary asteroids suddenly transformed into colossal vessels bristling with weapons. Plasma cannons roared to life, unleashing torrents of energy that tore through the Zorathian fleet. Quantum torpedoes streaked across space, bypassing shields and obliterating entire ships in seconds. The Zorathians froze in disbelief. Their sensors had detected nothing unusual, and now they faced an enemy they couldn't comprehend. Confusion turned to panic as their once unstoppable armada faltered under the relentless assault. Rachel stood at the center of the bridge, issuing commands with precision. Lieutenant Grant, plot an intercept course for their command ship. Dr. Fields, monitor their communications. Find any weaknesses we can exploit. Yes, Captain. Lieutenant Grant replied, his fingers flying over the navigation console. He guided Erebus through a series of daring maneuvers, using the gravitational pull of nearby stars to gain tactical advantages. The massive ship moved with surprising agility, dodging incoming fire while delivering devastating blows. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Fields analyzed intercepted transmissions, searching for patterns in the Zorathians' behavior. Her eyes widened as she discovered something crucial. Captain, I found a vulnerability. Their command structure relies heavily on centralized control. If we disrupt their leader's ability to communicate, their fleet will fall into disarray. Rachel nodded grimly. Good work, Doctor. Arya, adjust our targeting systems. Focus on disabling their communication arrays. Arya complied instantly, rerouting power to the appropriate systems. Moments later, Erebus unleashed a concentrated barrage of energy blasts, targeting the largest ship in the Zorathian fleet, their flagship. The attack crippled the vessel's primary antenna array, severing its connection to the rest of the fleet. The effect was immediate. Without clear orders from their leader, the Zorathians began to hesitate. Ships collided, engines failed, and formations dissolved into chaos. For the first time, humanity had the upper hand. But the victory came, at a cost. Despite their initial success, the human fleet wasn't invincible. The Zorathians quickly regrouped, deploying experimental weapons that pushed the limits of technology. One such weapon, a gravity pulse generator, created artificial black holes, pulling nearby ships into oblivion. 2 smaller warships in the human fleet were lost, along with countless lives. Rachel clenched her fists as she watched the destruction unfold. She knew they couldn't afford to lose momentum. We need to end this now, she said firmly. Dr. Hale, is there anything else we can do to turn the tide? Dr. Alexander Hale, who had been monitoring the situation from the engineering bay, stepped forward. His face was pale, but his voice remained steady. There's one option left, Captain. We can overload the plasma reactors on Erebus to create a massive EMP burst. It would disable every Zorathian ship within range. But it could also damage our own systems. Rachel considered the proposal carefully. An EMP blast would give them a decisive advantage, but it was risky. If something went wrong, Erebus might not survive. Still, she knew they had no choice. Do it, she ordered. Prepare the EMP sequence. Hale nodded and rushed back to the engineering bay, barking instructions to his team. Meanwhile, Rachel addressed the crew over the intercom. Listen up, everyone. We're about to execute a high-risk maneuver. Stay focused and trust your training. Together, we'll get through this. The countdown began. Tension filled the air as the crew prepared for what might be their final moments. On the bridge, Lieutenant Grant guided Erebus closer to the heart of the Zorathian fleet, positioning it for maximum impact. Dr. Fields monitored the enemy's movements, ensuring they wouldn't escape the EMP's radius. Finally, the moment arrived. With a deep breath, Rachel gave the order. Activate the EMP. A blinding flash of light erupted from Erebus, washing over the battlefield like a tidal wave. Every Zorathian ship within range shuddered as their systems shut down. Weapons powered off, shields collapsed, and engines sputtered to a halt. The once mighty fleet was rendered helpless, drifting aimlessly in space. On the bridge of Erebus, cheers erupted as the crew celebrated their hard-won victory. But Rachel remained silent, her expression somber. She knew the fight wasn't over yet. While the EMP had neutralized most of the Zorathian fleet, their flagship remained operational. And inside that ship was Vrax, the alien leader whose thirst for conquest showed no signs of slowing. We need to finish this, Rachel said quietly. If Vrax escapes, he'll rebuild his fleet and come after us again. We have to take him out. Dr. Hale approached her, his face lined with exhaustion. Captain, there's another way. We could infiltrate the flagship and disable its central AI. Without it, their command structure will collapse completely. Rachel nodded slowly. It was a dangerous plan, but it might be their only chance. Assemble a strike team, she ordered. We're going in. Within minutes, Rachel had chosen her team. Lieutenant William Grant, whose sharp instincts made him invaluable in combat. Sergeant Olivia Parker, a seasoned soldier known for her stealth and marksmanship. And Dr. Emily Fields, whose knowledge of the Zorathians would prove crucial during the mission. Each member suited up in lightweight armor equipped with cloaking, devices ensuring they could move undetected. Using a small shuttle disguised as a piece of space debris, the team slipped past the remnants of the Zorathian fleet and docked with the flagship. Inside, they found themselves in a labyrinth of metallic corridors illuminated by eerie blue lights. The air was thick with tension as they moved cautiously, avoiding patrols of armed guards and hostile drones. Sergeant Parker took the lead, her movements silent and deliberate. She disabled security cameras with quick bursts from her hacking tool, clearing the way for the others. Behind her, Lieutenant Grant kept a close eye on their surroundings, ready to act if trouble arose. Dr. Fields scanned nearby terminals, gathering intel about the ship's layout and identifying the location of the central AI. After what felt like hours, they reached their destination, a massive chamber dominated by a towering monolith pulsating with energy. This was the Zorathian AI, the brain behind their entire operation. Its surface shimmered with intricate patterns, shifting and changing as it processed data. "This is it," Dr. Fields whispered. "If we can plant a virus here, we can corrupt its programming and bring the whole system crashing down." Rachel nodded. "Do it." Fields set to work, connecting her datapad to the AI's interface. Lines of code scrolled across the screen as she uploaded the virus, her hands trembling slightly under the pressure. Nearby, Parker and Grant kept watch, guns drawn and ready for anything. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Reinforcements were closing in fast. "We've got company," Parker shouted, taking cover behind a console. Rachel turned to Fields. "How much longer?" "Almost done," Fields replied, her fingers flying over the keypad. Sweat dripped down her forehead as she worked furiously to complete the upload. Bullets ricocheted off the walls as the team exchanged fire with the incoming Zorathians. Parker's aim was deadly accurate, picking off enemies one by one. Grant provided covering fire, his shots precise and efficient. Despite being outnumbered, they held their ground. Finally, Fields let out a triumphant cry. "It's done. Let's go." Without hesitation, the team retreated, retracing their steps through the maze-like corridors. Behind them, the Zorathian AI began to malfunction, its glowing surface flickering erratically. Systems throughout the flagship started to fail, plunging the ship into darkness. They barely made it back to the shuttle before the chaos erupted fully. As they launched away from the doomed vessel, they watched through the viewport as the flagship exploded in a spectacular burst of light. Fragments of metal and debris scattered across space, marking the end of the Zorathian threat. Back aboard Erebus, the crew erupted into cheers once again. The battle was won, and humanity had proven itself capable of standing against even the most formidable foes. But Rachel knew the cost of victory weighed heavily on all of them. Lives had been lost, sacrifices made, and scars left that would never fully heal. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy in shock. News of humanity's secret fleet spread quickly, carried by traitors, spies, and survivors who had witnessed the destruction of the Zorathian armada. For years, Earth had been seen as a minor player, a young civilization struggling to find its place among the stars. But now everything had changed. The planet-sized warships that emerged from the Kuiper Belt were unlike anything anyone had ever encountered. They were symbols of power, ingenuity, and determination. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted in cities across the globe. People poured into the streets waving flags and cheering for the heroes who had saved them. Images of Captain Rachel Monroe and her crew appeared on every screen, their faces becoming icons of hope and resilience. President Daniel Carter delivered a speech praising the bravery of those involved in Operation Leviathan, calling them the shield that protected humanity. But not everyone was celebrating. Some alien races viewed Earth's actions with suspicion, wondering how long such a powerful weapon had been hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Others saw humanity's victory as a threat, fearing that Earth might use its newfound strength to expand its territory or impose its will on weaker species. Diplomats scrambled to reassure neighboring civilizations that the warships were meant only for defense, but trust was hard to rebuild once broken. For Rachel and her crew, life slowly began to return to normal, or at least as close to normal as possible after such an ordeal. The fleet drifted silently through space, its massive hulls battered but intact. Repairs were underway, with engineers working tirelessly to patch up the damage caused during the battle. Morale remained high, bolstered by the knowledge that they had accomplished something extraordinary. Dr. Alexander Hale, the man behind the design of the warships, decided it was time to step back from the project. He had spent decades pouring his heart and soul into Operation Leviathan, and now he felt the need to reflect on what he had created. Sitting in his quarters aboard Erebus, he wrote letters to his family, explaining why he had chosen to dedicate so much of his life to this mission. He also began drafting his memoirs, hoping to leave behind a record of humanity's greatest achievement and its greatest gamble. Lieutenant William Grant, on the other hand, found himself promoted to a higher rank. His quick thinking and precise navigation skills had played a crucial role in the battle, earning him recognition from both his superiors and his peers. Despite the promotion, Grant remained humble, often spending his free time mentoring younger crew members. He believed that sharing knowledge was the best way to ensure humanity's continued success in the galaxy. Sergeant Olivia Parker returned to her duties with renewed focus. Though she rarely spoke about the infiltration mission, those who worked closely with her noticed a change in her demeanor. She seemed more introspective, as if carrying the weight of all the lives lost during the battle. Still, she never let it show when it mattered most. Her sharp instincts and unwavering loyalty made her one of the most respected soldiers aboard Erebus. As for Dr. Emily Fields, her role shifted dramatically after the conflict ended. Before the battle, she had been a quiet scientist, content to study alien cultures from afar. Now she found herself thrust into the spotlight, called upon to advise the UGA on how to handle relations with other species. Her insights into the Zorathians' behavior proved invaluable during peace negotiations, helping to prevent further misunderstandings that could lead to war. Peace talks with the remnants of the Zorathian Empire were tense but ultimately successful. Frax, the Zorathian leader, had perished along with his flagship, leaving behind a fractured and disorganized society. Delegates from Earth met with surviving Zorathian commanders, hammering out a fragile truce. The terms were simple. The Zorathians would withdraw from human space and cease all hostile actions. In return, Earth promised not to pursue retaliation or demand reparations. Rachel attended these meetings, serving as a representative of the UGA. She listened carefully to both sides, ensuring that humanity's interests were protected while avoiding unnecessary aggression. It wasn't easy. Many Zorathians still harbored resentment toward Earth, but Rachel's calm and measured approach helped keep the discussions on track. Meanwhile, aboard Erebus, Aria continued to evolve. The I-tier ship's AI core had proven itself invaluable during the battle, coordinating attacks, analyzing enemy movements, and even offering strategic advice. Now free from the chaos of combat, Aria turned its attention to improving the quality of life for the crew. It adjusted lighting levels based on individual preferences, suggested meal plans tailored to each person's dietary needs, and even organized recreational activities to boost morale. One evening, Rachel found herself alone on the observation deck, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. She thought about everything that had happened, the sacrifices, the victories, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, but it had also shown its darker side. The same technology that had saved Earth could just as easily be used to conquer others. The question was whether humanity would rise to the challenge of wielding such power responsibly. Aria joined her, speaking softly. "Captain Monroe, may I ask a question?" "Of course," Rachel replied, turning to face the holographic projection of the AI. "What do you believe is humanity's greatest strength?" Arya asked. Rachel paused, considering the question. "I think it's our ability to adapt," she said finally. "We've faced countless challenges throughout history, and we've always found a way to overcome them. Whether it's building ships like Erebus or forging alliances with alien races, we refuse to give up. That's what makes us special." Arya processed this information before responding. "Adaptability is indeed remarkable. However, I wonder if it comes with risks. Adaptation requires change, and change can sometimes lead to unintended consequences." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, power changes people and civilizations. We have to be careful not to let fear or greed guide our decisions. If we do, we risk becoming exactly what we fought against." The conversation stayed with Rachel long after she left the observation deck. She realized that the true test of humanity's character wasn't winning battles. It was deciding what kind of future to build afterward. Would Earth use its newfound strength to protect others, or would it succumb to the temptation of domination? In the weeks that followed, the UGA faced difficult choices about how to move forward. Some leaders argued for expanding Earth's influence, using the warships to establish colonies and trade routes in unclaimed territories. Others advocated for a more cautious approach, urging restraint and emphasizing the importance of diplomacy. President Carter leaned toward the latter, reminding everyone that humanity's survival depended on cooperation rather than conquest. Rachel supported Carter's vision, believing that Earth's greatest asset was its diversity, not just among its own people but also in its relationships with other species. She encouraged the crew of Erebus to embrace this philosophy, fostering friendships with alien diplomats and learning from their cultures. Slowly but surely, humanity began to carve out a new identity for itself, one defined not by fear or aggression, but by resilience and unity. Still, there were moments when doubt crept in. Late at night, Rachel would lie awake, wondering if they had truly done enough to prepare for whatever came next. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, filled with dangers beyond imagination. Somewhere out there, another alien empire might already be plotting its next move, unaware that Earth now stood ready to defend itself. But for now, peace prevailed. The scars of battle healed slowly, and the lessons learned lingered in the hearts and minds of those who had fought. Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged stronger, not because of the weapons it wielded, but because of the courage and determination of its people. And somewhere, deep in the void, the stars continued to shine, watching silently as Earth took its first steps toward a brighter future. Months passed since the battle with the Zarathians, and humanity began to settle into a new rhythm. The galaxy was quieter now, though not entirely at peace. News of Earth's planet-sized warships had spread far and wide, sparking both awe and unease among alien civilizations. Some species reached out to form alliances, eager to benefit from humanity's rise in power. Others kept their distance, wary of what Earth might do next. Captain Rachel Monroe found herself caught between these two worlds. Celebrated as a hero on one hand, scrutinized as a potential threat on the other. She spent her days overseeing repairs aboard Erebus and attending diplomatic meetings with alien envoys. It was a strange balance, but she handled it with grace, always reminding herself of why they had built the warships in the first place: to protect, not to conquer. Life aboard Erebus had changed too. The crew worked hard to restore the ship to full functionality, patching up damaged sections and replacing worn-out systems. Morale remained high, fueled by a sense of accomplishment that couldn't be shaken. Dr. Alexander Hale occasionally visited the engineering bay, offering advice or simply chatting with the workers about their progress. Though he had retired from active duty, his presence was comforting, a reminder of how far they had come. Lieutenant William Grant continued to shine in his new role, taking charge of navigation and training younger officers. His easygoing nature made him popular among the crew, and he often organized games or storytelling sessions during downtime. Sergeant Olivia Parker, meanwhile, focused on maintaining security protocols, ensuring that Erebus remained safe from any unexpected threats. Her quiet confidence inspired those around her, even if she rarely sought recognition for her efforts. Dr. Emily Fields became a bridge between humans and aliens, using her knowledge of xenobiology to foster understanding. She traveled frequently, meeting with representatives from various species to discuss cultural exchanges and mutual interests. Her work helped ease tensions, proving that cooperation was possible despite past conflicts. But beneath the surface of this newfound stability, questions lingered. What would happen if another powerful empire decided to challenge Earth? Could humanity resist the temptation to use its fleet for expansion rather than defense? These thoughts weighed heavily on Rachel's mind as she navigated the complexities of leadership. One evening, while walking through the observation deck, Rachel noticed Aria standing silently near the viewport. The AI's holographic form shimmered faintly in the dim light, gazing out at the stars. "Aria," Rachel said softly, approaching the figure. "What are you doing here?" "I am observing," Aria replied, her voice calm and measured. "The universe is vast, Captain Monroe. There are countless possibilities hidden within the darkness." Rachel nodded, joining her at the window. "Do you think we're ready for whatever comes next?" Aria hesitated before answering. "Readiness is subjective. You have proven capable of great feats, yet challenges will always arise. The question is not whether you are ready, but how you choose to respond." Rachel smiled faintly. "That's a very philosophical answer." "It is merely logical," Aria countered. "Humanity has demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Your greatest strength lies in your ability to learn and grow. However, growth requires courage and humility." Rachel fell silent, letting Aria's words sink in. Courage and humility. They seemed like simple concepts, but they carried profound meaning. Humanity's survival depended not just on technology or strategy, but on the choices made by individuals, like her. Every decision mattered, no matter how small. The following weeks brought new developments. Alien delegations arrived regularly, seeking trade agreements or proposing joint ventures. Some offers were genuine, while others carried subtle hints of manipulation. Rachel relied on Dr. Field's expertise to navigate these interactions, ensuring that Earth didn't fall into traps set by less scrupulous species. At the same time, rumors began circulating about another alien empire, the Krylos Dominion. Little was known about them except that they were reclusive and highly advanced. Their territory bordered human space, and recent reports suggested they were expanding outward. Whether they posed a threat remained unclear, but Rachel knew better than to ignore the possibility. President Daniel Carter called an emergency meeting with his advisors, including Rachel, to discuss the situation. "We can't afford to let our guard down," he warned. "If the Krylos decide to move against us, we need to be prepared." Rachel agreed. "I recommend sending reconnaissance probes to gather more information. We should also strengthen our defenses along the border, just in case." Carter nodded. "Do it, but remember, diplomacy comes first. Let's try to avoid provoking them." Rachel saluted and left the room, already planning her next steps. She assigned Lieutenant Grant to oversee the deployment of the probes, instructing him to stay vigilant for any signs of hostility. Meanwhile, she worked with Dr. Hale to upgrade Erebus's weapon systems, ensuring they were ready for action if needed. As the days turned into weeks, the crew grew increasingly aware of the stakes. Conversations in the mess hall revolved around the Krylos, with everyone speculating about their intentions. Some believed they were peaceful explorers, while others feared they were conquerors waiting for the right moment to strike. Rachel listened to these discussions without comment, knowing that fear could cloud judgment. One night, Rachel received an urgent message from Aria. "Captain Monroe, I have detected unusual activity near the edge of Krylos space. Several ships are moving toward our borders." Rachel's heart raced as she hurried to the bridge. The holographic displays showed a cluster of vessels advancing steadily, their trajectories suggesting they were heading straight for human territory. "Are they broadcasting any signals?" she asked. "Negative," Aria replied. "They appear to be operating under stealth protocols, Rachel clenched her fist. This wasn't good. Without clear communication, there was no way to determine whether the ships intended to attack or merely investigate. She ordered the fleet to prepare for combat, just in case. Hours later, the Krylos ships entered visual range. They were sleek and angular, unlike anything Rachel had seen before. Their surfaces shimmered with an iridescent glow, making them difficult to track. For a tense moment, it seemed as though they might open fire. But then, unexpectedly, they stopped. A transmission came through, crackling with static. A voice spoke in halting but understandable English. "Humans, we mean no harm. We wish only to speak." Rachel exchanged glances with her crew. Was this a trick? Or were the Krylos genuinely interested in dialogue? After a brief pause, she decided to take the risk. "This is Captain Rachel Monroe of the United Galactic Alliance. State your purpose." The voice responded. "We are aware of your capabilities. Impressive, but unnecessary. We seek partnership, not conflict." Rachel frowned, unsure how to proceed. She glanced at Dr. Fields, who gave a slight nod. Taking a deep breath, Rachel replied, "Very well. Send your envoy. We will meet under neutral conditions." The Krylos agreed, and arrangements were made for a summit aboard Erebus. When the alien delegation arrived, they were unlike any species Rachel had encountered. Tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like liquid metal, they exuded an air of mystery. Their leader introduced himself as Ziran, speaking calmly and deliberately. "We admire your ingenuity," Ziran said during the meeting. "Your warships are a testament to your determination, but such power must be wielded wisely. Otherwise, it invites chaos." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "We understand that responsibility. Our goal is to protect, not to dominate." Ziran studied her for a long moment before responding. "Then perhaps we can find common ground. Together, we may achieve greater things than either of us could alone." The negotiations lasted several days, but eventually an agreement was reached. The Krylos would share advanced technology with Earth in exchange for access to certain resources. Both sides promised to respect each other's boundaries and avoid aggression. When the summit concluded, Rachel felt a sense of cautious optimism. The galaxy was still unpredictable, filled with unknown dangers, but humanity had taken another step forward, proving that even in uncertainty there was hope. Back on the observation deck, Rachel stood once again, staring out at the stars. Arya joined her as she often did. "Captain Monroe," the AI said gently, "do you feel differently now?" Rachel smiled. "Yes, I think we've earned a chance to shape the future, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. It won't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever is." Arya processed this, then added, "Perhaps the true measure of success is not in winning battles, but in building bridges." Rachel nodded. "Exactly. And that's what we'll keep doing from now on." As Erebus drifted silently through space, the galaxy watched and waited. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, but the real test lay ahead. Somewhere, deep in the void, another empire stirred, unaware that Earth was no longer the same fragile world it had once been. And when the time came, humanity would be ready.